cat has servants, a dog looks up to you, and a pig sees you on equal level. These things over here are small little segments of what we've got in our bigger beds. So I can walk out here in the morning and I can see exactly, oh, the aubergines look as though they're ready to be harvested, or the tomatoes are coming right. In next week I'm going to have these tomatoes that I can start to bottle. So yeah, we only mulch with the horse manure because basically as it rains and as it gets wet, so the nutrients in that horse manure then basically drain into the soil. Yeah, and it's very easy to take it off again. You know, because it's so big, it's very easy to take it off. Sawdust we find doesn't work, and then we're watching and we're learning how they seed themselves and where they're seeding. So all of this over here is self-seeded. You know, and it's funny enough, I think it's got a much nicer flavour.
Interesting.
You know, because it's again, it's much more natural.
Each season that goes by, do the plants sort of adapt to the conditions and sort of gets better and better?
Yeah, I mean we find that for instance with our garlic, especially, and this is where I work. So I can walk up and down and I can see exactly what's happening in my orchard.
So
you know,
what would you call that? Yeah, it's like it's like a litmus test almost
exactly,
for the rest of the farm.
Yeah, I harvested 2 tons of apricots. This year if we get a bucket full it will be a lot.
Crazy, huh?
These are Colebrooks, and we're just experimenting at the moment with different concepts as far as they're concerned. But you see, I mean, in a natural environment like this, the pigs don't stink. The Colebrook is what we call a lard pig. So it's very fatty. But also if you look at the faces, they're browsers, they're not diggers. Okay, so they'll eat the grass and they can live quite comfortably on grass. Not only on grass, but they can. Whereas this here, that's a Duroc, and that's a very, what's the right word? It's a highly bred pig. It's got very low fat, okay, and it digging. If you look at all the rest, they're grazing. So all this little digging is her.
Is a grazing pig quite unique? I mean, you sort of like come to understand.
Okay, so you've got 2 kinds of pigs. So you've got what we call a shovel nose, which this is. Come here, girl. Come. So she's got a shovel nose. Do you see a long snout? Okay. She's got what you call a plate face. Look at that, a flat face. So she can't dig as well as she can.
So it's physiology.
So it's physiology, yeah.
Grazing versus sort of digging, like you say, is it more a decision about the meat that you want to cure or the end product you're looking for, or is there also something about how you want to manage the land?
Well, the thing is, you don't want the whole place dug up.
Yeah.
I mean, you would see none of this digging. So she needs a tremendous amount more energy. She's a much bigger pig. She doesn't convert food to fat as quickly, whereas they convert food to fat. So they much better adapted to free range, but they're not better adapted to our modern diet. You see there's a little bit of silvering there, and this is basically what comes from those Duroc pigs. So it's not as this right color that I would have liked, but it's good enough. The quality is still fantastic. So this is a loin bacon, a back bacon.
Okay. And what is it you're looking for? What's
so I'm really looking for an animal that hasn't got as much fat, but has still got good quality meat.
Okay.
Right over there is our orchard. You can see it very clearly. And we've got indigenous sheep in there at the moment, busy grazing.
What are those?
Those are paddy.
Okay.
I had a huge flock of paddy.
Animals, but so much of food production and safety in food production almost is subjective, like you said. Like just doesn't smell right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's quite difficult to regulate that, or you know. But as a someone who works with food and who knows good food, you just know doesn't smell right,
Yeah.
doesn't feel right.
And when I work with my pork, at the end of the day, if you work animals, at the end of the day, no matter how much you wash, if you smell your hands, you can still smell the meat. When I work with my pork, it smells like sweet beef. Got the most amazing smell. When you work with terrible, bad quality pork, and you smell your hands stink.
Like with your animals, do you somehow factor in their sort of ecological services, or I guess you're thinking about your
very
farm
much
as a whole, so
Yeah.
you're seeing
Yeah,
their
no, I
outputs
mean
as input.
everything. Basically, I mean, you can see here the animals have been grazing this area.
Yeah.
So we move them around.
Mike, what's your pest control? How do you deal with?
In
pests?
actual fact, I just try and keep an ecologically balanced.
Okay. So
area.
you take the
I
view that
don't-
if it's good soil and it's a strong plant.
Yeah, and I live with sharing with nature. You know, we
Mm.
live with it. I use ash a little bit, but that's about it.
Okay.
We don't use any pesticides, any herbicides, because at the end of the day, you don't know what else you're killing. What you spray, you're creating an imbalance.
Yeah, it's indiscriminate.
Exactly. No matter what you do, whether it's just soap and garlic, you know, it's still indiscriminate. 30% of Americans claimed to be gluten intolerant. They got a sample out of those people and they worked only 0.3% of those people were actually gluten intolerant. The rest of the people were, however, intolerant of the additives that were put into flour. And that's what messed them up.
So that's the challenge with like reductionist thinking.
Exactly.
It's like it's flour. No,
Yeah.
like we need to go a level deeper and understand it better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What drives you? Is it at the end of the day is to produce the best end product?
Yeah.
You have to go back to the beginning
That's
and
all
grow
it-
it yourself.
Yeah, that's all that I'm interested in. I'm not interested in being commercial. We hang it till it's lost a certain amount of moisture. Then we vacuum it. And the longer we keep it vacuumed like this in the fridge, the nicer it gets. So it actually matures, it carries on maturing at 0 degrees without losing water content. And as long as the vacuum seal is good, it's like wet aging beef. What we do with the salami is once it comes out, we then wipe the mold off. Because the mold's very, very simple. The mold is a growing organism that basically grows, its ideal temperature of growing is between about 12, more or less, between 12 and 18 degrees. And it protects the outside of the salami and helps it to dry more evenly. So that's what our chorizo looks like.
Sure.
So this is ready. So we'll wipe this. This is what I want to push a lot more of. Philosophy is starting to think more laterally. In other words, why are we all trying to produce a classic Italian salami? You know, why aren't we producing a South African salami?
Coconut oil, dark chocolate, eggs, broccoli and kale and spinach. Broccoli, I mean kale and spinach, salmon and sardines, turmeric, and walnuts. And you know the walnuts shaped like a brain?
Yes.
This is the brain, those are brain foods.
Yeah, for sure.
Marrow and ginger preserve, and there's also a chutney. And
Marrow and ginger preserve.
And then this aubergine and lemon marmalade.
Did you know them a Szechuan?
Szechuan pepper, yes, on
Yes.
the other side. And then, of course, the marmalades, pumpkin and citrus, smooth orange, and orange and lemon marmalade. Roasted aubergine dip, just add your aubergines, and you've got the dip for baba ganoush.
Okay.
Aubergine confits. Farmyard mixed veg, I think you've taken some of that, big seller that.
I love that product.
Yeah. With what? When people buy things.
That's what fermenting is all about, is capturing the wild yeast in your environment. That's what it should be about.
Right.
Whether it's making beer, whether it's making bread, whether it's making kimchi or any other pickles, whether it's making cured meats, it's all about fermentation. And it's all about capturing the environment, the here and the now.
That's amazing.
So the inspiring stories for me in food production, and particularly in small-scale agriculture, are where farmers are starting to see the whole, the bigger picture, and they're not simply farming in a specific vertical, but are starting to branch out and be in control of the greater whole, of the greater process here. And so there's no better example than what Mike is doing at Wicked Food Earth in Hekput, where he's producing all of the inputs, all of the ingredients for his beautiful and delicious cured meats are within his grasp, within his control. So he's not just buying in ingredients, he's producing them himself. And it is phenomenal that the quality is so discernible from anything else, because he is part of the process from start to end.